So, Jeff, today we're talking about Jesus raising people from the dead. And so I have a question.
Yes.
If somebody had that ability today, wouldn't the world just continue to stay overpopulated even more?
So that is how we weed out the gene pool. Is that what you're saying?
Everybody would pay this guy.
Yeah.
Right? Or
That's true.
girl, whoever had the power.
Yeah.
Right? And the whole world, like nobody would really die.
Well, so this was a rare occurrence even in Jesus' ministry. He didn't raise everybody from the dead.
Right. He did raise himself.
That's true.
Well, actually, was it God who raised Jesus?
Yeah, well, he's God.
All the above.
Yeah, but he said his father did. So, yeah.
Cool.
So, hey, really good question. And he's Chris, and I'm Jeff, and we're the Bible guys. Okay, Chris, so we have a new segment today.
Yeah.
And this is, I can't tell you how excited I am about this segment. It's going to make me feel so loved when we do this.
Wait a minute. What if I get them all wrong?
Well,
Because the segment, by the way, is
how well do you know them?
How well do I know you?
Yeah.
And you, on the spot, you've not even thought of these questions.
No.
You literally found out 2 seconds ago.
Yes.
You have to come up with 5 things
but now I'm super excited about it.
that I may or may not know about you.
This gives you an opportunity to prove that you love me.
That's it? I have to know things in order to love you? Okay, fine.
Okay. Let me see. I'll ask an easy one first. How old am I?
Oh, you know what? That's so funny. So people who don't know how old you are don't love you?
No, they don't.
You are
No, just if you don't.
you
know,
are 52,
I am 52.
Yes.
But substantially younger than you.
at least by 6 weeks.
6 weeks. That is true. You're 6
It
weeks
is
older
true.
than me. Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
it is true.
Okay.
Respect your elders.
Let me see where was I born?
Alba, Michigan.
Lapeer, Michigan, but that's Elba is in Lapeer. Yeah.
Okay, well, wait a minute.
I was born in the city of Lapeer,
Oh,
but
okay.
I grew up in Elba.
Okay, so Alba is what? Explain that.
Elba is like a little. It's a crossroad in the middle. It's a township,
Okay.
but it has like barely a town. There's a bank, a gas station, and a liquor store, and now a Dollar General.
Wow.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, all
I
right.
remember when we got our blinking light and our stop sign. It was a big deal.
Wow.
Yeah. So very good. But hey, Elba is in Lapeer, so we're going to give you that one.
Yes.
Let me see. I have another one. What's my favorite kind of food?
Protein.
Yes. Prepared how?
By the grill.
On the grill. That's right.
On the grill.
See, you love me.
I
You
do
really
love
me.
you. So much love happening.
Let me see. What's another one? Man, these are hard.
Yeah.
What's my favorite color? You know?
Oh, geez. I don't know, but I'm going to say blue.
There you go. Yes. Well, as evidenced by the fact that I have like 95 blue shirts, right?
Yeah,
So-
well, that's why I guessed it.
Okay, and then last one. What's my least favorite state in the world?
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
In the world?
In the world, my least favorite place on the planet.
Oh, my word.
It's the same, Chris. It's the same.
India.
No. Now you're projecting, I think.
Oh, wait a minute. You said you mean Ohio.
Yeah, I didn't mean Ohio.
Okay, all right.
I'm a Michigan fan, so we hate Ohio.
Right. Okay. I was literally
That's
saying,
awesome.
I was trying to say, like, where don't you like to travel to?
No.
And India is a hard trip.
India's can be a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I just. By the way, if anybody's listening from India,
I love India.
I'm so sorry.
Absolutely.
Now I feel really bad.
We have listeners from Ohio too, but we're not sorry.
That's so funny. By the way, I'm from Ohio.
Yeah, that's
for
right.
those who don't know.
But you got to Michigan as soon as you could. Right? Yeah.
Took me a little while.
Yes, it did. Well, not everybody comes to the light quickly, right? So the Lord has to do special work.
And
well, there you go.
at last
5.
I
Dude,
see
you
the
were.
light.
I'm going to give you a half a point there because you started going to Ohio until I said my favorite state in the world.
Yes.
And then because I could see you went,
Yeah.
oh, that's easy, right?
Yeah.
And then you changed.
Right. That is true. I was going to say Ohio.
Yeah.
And you said the world, and I thought, well, there's has to be a reason why you said
Yeah,
Ohio.
but Ohio is my least favorite place in the world.
That's so
So I've been
funny.
all over the planet, and Ohio is my... No, actually, you know what? Ohio is a beautiful place. My wife and I, we've done a couple of vacations there, and it's a pretty place. It has pretty places. I'll say that.
Yeah, it does.
Hocking Hills, along Lake Erie, as long as the lake's not burning.
Youngstown.
Youngstown, yeah. Okay. Well, there you go, man. See how much I just feel so loved, Chris.
That's
Thank you
great.
so much.
That's great.
Well, we should probably get on with this. Hey guys, before we get to the Bible reading part of the conversation today, would you do us a favor? If you're watching on YouTube, would you subscribe on YouTube, follow us on YouTube? It helps us so much when you do it. And then give us a thumbs up. If you have a thumbs down, then I'm not talking to you, forget about it. But give us a thumbs up if you like it, leave a comment, and all those things help the algorithms get the message out further. Thanks so much. We're going to read Matthew 8, verses 5 through 13, and then again, Luke chapter 7, 1 through 17.
Right. And if you're just joining us, it's because a lot of times in the four Gospels in the Bible, they record the same incident, but with different details and a slightly different angle at times.
That's right.
So this is the same story, same instance, as recorded in two of the four Gospels.
So in Matthew chapter 5, it says, when Jesus returned to Capernaum, remember he'd left Capernaum for a while. He said, I need to go. Even though everybody wanted him to stay, he said, I got to go. Well, now he returns back to Capernaum. A Roman officer came and pleaded with him, Lord, my young servant lies in bed, paralyzed and in terrible pain. Jesus said, I'll come and heal him. But the officer said, Lord, I'm not worthy to have you come into my home. Just say the word from where you are, and my servant will be healed. I know this because I'm under authority of my superior officers, and I have authority over my soldiers. I only need to say, go, and they go, or come, and they come. And if I say to my slaves, do this, they do it. When Jesus heard this, he was amazed. Turning to those who were following him, he said, I tell you the truth, I haven't seen faith like this in all Israel. And I tell you this, that many Gentiles will come from all over the world, from east and west, and sit down with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob at the feast in the kingdom of heaven. But many Israelites, those from whom the kingdom was prepared, will be thrown into outer darkness, where there'll be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And then Jesus said to the Roman officer, go back home, because you believed it has happened. And the young servant was healed that same hour. Pretty neat.
Yeah, for sure.
So Luke tells a similar story. Luke chapter 7, verse 1, he says, when Jesus had finished saying all this to the people, he returned to Capernaum. At that time, the highly valued slave of a Roman officer was sick and near death. When the officer heard about Jesus, he sent some respected Jewish elders to ask him to come and heal his slave. And so they earnestly begged Jesus to help the man. If anyone deserves your help, he does, they said, for he loves the Jewish people and even built a synagogue for us. So Jesus went with them. But just before they arrived at the house, the officer sent some friends and said, Lord, don't trouble yourself by coming to my home, for I'm not worthy of such an honor. I'm not even worthy to come and meet you. Just say the word from where you are, and my servant will be healed. I know this because I'm under the authority of my superior officers, and I have authority over my soldiers. I only need to say go, and they go, or come, and they come. And if I say to my slaves, do this, they do it. When Jesus heard this, he was amazed, and turning to the crowd that was following him, he said, I tell you, I haven't seen faith like this in all Israel. And when the officer's friends returned to his house, they found the slave completely healed. And then we'll add another story onto that. Verses 11 through 17 in Luke chapter 7 says, soon afterward, Jesus went with his disciples to the village of Nain, and a large crowd followed him. A funeral procession was coming out as he approached the village gate. And the young man who had died was a widow's only son, and a large crowd from the village was with her. When the Lord saw her, his heart overflowed with compassion. Don't cry, he said, and then he walked over to the coffin and touched it, and the bearers stopped. Young man, he said, I tell you, get up. And then the young dead boy sat up and began to talk, and Jesus gave him back to his mother. Great fear swept the crowd, and they praised God, saying, a mighty prophet has risen among us, and God has visited his people today. And the news about Jesus spread throughout Judea and through the surrounding countryside.
Ooh.
What?
Right. You know what I love that stands out about this story, this raising of the dead, is that it says that Jesus had overwhelming compassion. His heart overflowed with compassion. Yeah. Now, that is just amazing. I mean, obviously, God knows his children, and God knows all of us, and he has omnipotence, right?
Right.
So he knows all things. But, you know, Jesus was also 100% human. So my mind always goes to, you know, did he walk around just knowing everything, or did he, because we know at times he chose to not embrace a lot of his...
well, there were several things. He said, only my Father in heaven knows.
Right. That's right.
Even though he was God in perfect fellowship with him.
Right.
Yeah.
So my mind always goes to trying to understand that, which of course I don't think we ever will, right?
right.
But did he meet her for the first time, being human and not embracing that part of himself, or either way, it says that he met her and he's it's overflowed with compassion. And I thought, man, that's just amazing because it could have been that he met her for the very first time, found out her situation, and immediately had this overwhelming compassion.
Yeah. This is one of those, I think that compassion is funny. We're jumping to that first because that's the thing that jumped off the thing to me. That we want to get back to this authority Jesus has, right? Which is really cool.
Sure.
But with her, this is one of those things I think that really highlights his humanity, quite honestly, even though he's raising a person from the dead. Mm-hmm. So Jesus, the Bible says without Jesus, nothing was created, that he is the word that created everything, right? It's mentioned in John. It's mentioned in Colossians.
Yeah.
He is the creator. Nothing exists without him, which means life. He created life, and all of humanity was made to live forever. We were not made to die. Death was a curse, and death is horrific. I believe death is horrific even to God, right? Mm-hmm. So he leaves the perfections of heaven and comes into this place of death. And we have, as humans, we have this function in our brain. It's called the reticular activating system. And what it does is it shuts down all of the extra things because there's millions of inputs. The temperature of the room, the fact that a little breeze blew through, what color is in all of your peripheral vision, all those things, all the dozens and dozens of sounds, all the things, and our brains block out most of it. Otherwise, you'd go crazy, right? You go crazy trying to process it. And so your brain blocks out most of the stressors. And then your design, this reticular activator system, is designed to look for surprising things, pleasing things, dangerous things, and attractive things, right? Things for procreation. Those are the four, and the things that keep you alive. So these 5 things that we're designed to look for, and all the rest we have to block out. So can you imagine being a creator of the universe, able to process everything all the time? Who comes down to this planet and everything he engages with is dying.
Wow.
The author of life.
I'm not sure I've ever thought of that before.
The author of life is walking among the dead, right? That's what he's doing all the time. And so as a human, that reticular activating system had to have been working. Otherwise, it would be nonstop, perpetual grief. But then he comes up to this widow woman, which, by the way, his mom's a widow, probably by this point. Mm. And he sees this coffin with this dead boy in it. And at that point, he has great compassion.
Yeah.
Right? And so he was just overwhelmed by this death. And he's like, and this is the first time he goes, nope, I'm not going to tolerate that. Yeah. And he heals that little boy. Yeah. Isn't that beautiful?
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And then...
So the author of life walking among the dead all the time.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
I'm not sure I've ever had that thought. Yeah. Now, I have had the thought of thinking about, how God thinks about death, but Jesus walking around with that perspective all the time.
Because he wasn't under the curse.
Yeah.
But he lived in it, which is unbelievable.
So my mind always goes to movies. Yeah. Remember at the end of The Matrix 1 when everything became green numbers?
Oh, yeah.
Right? And he walks around just, seeing the world radically different than anybody, right? Right. In the entire film at that point, right? That's amazing. That's a wow.
So for him at this moment, I think he probably projected his mom to this lady, and then the consequence of this woman losing her young son. She's a widow. The difficulty of a woman without a husband is, in our culture today, in the West, almost incomprehensible. But a widow without a son, she was destined to be destitute, and it was going to radically shorten her life.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
That's right, because the son's responsibility is to step up and take care of her. And whereas today there's no written, or accepted social code that happens that way. Although most kids take care of their mom, but back then it was just accepted that is exactly what you would do, right?
Yeah. So I love that. Anyway, so that was the thing that just jumps out. I do love. Let's jump back to this centurion guy, this Roman officer.
Yeah,
he totally understands how authority works, and he recognized it in Jesus, which is super cool. I love the parallels. Whenever you're reading the same story in 2 different passages, I always look for what's different.
Right.
And the thing that was different is in Luke says that the officer sent some people to go tell Jesus, and then sent more to say, you know what, I'm not even worthy to have you come to my house. Just speak the word and he'll be healed. And Jesus said, dude, talking about faith, right? So this guy wasn't a guy looking for a lucky charm. Some people, they looked at Jesus like like we would look at a lucky rabbit's foot, or, the lady reach out and just touch the hem of his garment, like he was a magic item.
Right.
And this guy wasn't looking at Jesus as a magic item or a lucky charm.
Well, you
or
already
a totem.
You already know he's a good man because he cares about a slave.
Yeah.
Right. And by the way, a slave doesn't have to mean what we.
It can be an indentured servant, mostly in the Roman Empire.
That's right. Yeah. So our minds go to chains and the horrific atrocities, but yeah, it could be somebody who's just working to pay off debt.
Yeah.
That's most of the time what it really refers to.
Yeah, so the Romans had a lot of the American slavery system, and we've talked about this on the podcast before, but the American chattel slavery system, humans owning other humans, that existed in the Roman Empire, but was out on the edges and not really the mainstream as much. It was more that instead of going to debtor's prison, you would be sold to pay off the debt you didn't pay. So there was no such thing as bankruptcy, right? So you'd be, or they would sell your children. And while, we would say, wow, that's a very dehumanizing thing, it's just the system they had at the time. But this servant may or may not have been a lifetime slave. It more than likely was he had a period of time that he was sold to this Roman centurion.
Yeah, and obviously the Roman centurion risked much by traveling far and having massive concern and just going out of his way to make sure that his, companion, I would look at it like more like a companion, right?
Yeah.
Was healed. And by the way, I love this note in the New Living Translation Life Application Bible. It says this: this passage marks a turning point in Luke's account of Jesus' ministry. Up to this point, he had dealt almost exclusively with the Jews, where he began to, but here he began to include the Gentiles. Notice the main characters are in this short drama: the Jewish elders, a Roman officer, an officer's slave, people of different racial and religious backgrounds and vastly different standings on the social ladder. Jesus broke through all those barriers straight through to the issue of faith. The gospel travels well across ethnic, racial, national, and religious barriers. Are you willing to work through them yourself? Jesus was no respecter of social divisions, and we should follow his example.
Yeah.
Reach out to those, and then it just gives us this little charge.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it's very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was great because the centurion has a good reputation among the Jews in an area where the Jews felt like the Romans were oppressive.
Right.
Right? But they liked him, and he'd actually even built them a synagogue. So they liked this guy. That's interesting. There's a cross-cultural thing. And then the fact that a powerful man, a man who was in charge of over 100 Roman soldiers, had concern for a servant.
Right.
And then Jesus, not being impressed by any of it, just heals people out of compassion. He goes and heals this servant kid. He heals this guy. He heals this little boy. No respecter of persons. We should be like that, right?
So it has to be mentioned that you got to believe that there are, religious leaders like elders or Pharisees or people who are, in the crowd, because it says a diverse, group. And Jesus says, I have not seen such faith in all of Israel.
Right.
He's saying this pagan Gentile who does not go to the temple.
Right.
He has not followed the laws of Moses. He has grown up, and they would call him lawless.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Lawless. Completely lawless. And he says he has more faith than anybody else. So there's a lot. There's a lot here because, number one, it just shows you that God's system doesn't go by age.
Right.
It doesn't go by rank.
Right.
It goes by faith.
Right.
Which, by the way, is a reminder of, remember when God, in the Old Testament, when God called Samuel? Mm-hmm. And here's this young boy who's hearing God, and it was actually spoken against Eli, who's the old high priest, and which just goes to show you it's not by age or rank, it's by faith, right? Which is what Samuel had at the time. But anyway, the bottom line is so that's a statement about God's ranking system by faith, but then also it's a statement about faith itself.
Right.
right? So Jesus isn't talking about religiosity.
Right.
Jesus is talking about the faith that this Roman centurion had in him as a Messiah, as a Christ, as one who had authority to do such things.
Yeah.
And Hebrews 11 tells us, right? Faith is the evidence of things unseen.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think I finished that statement or the concept earlier when I was talking about the lady touching his garment, or so many people looked at Jesus like a good luck charm.
Yeah.
And he didn't. And this is why his faith was so great. Was a lot of times humans naturally look for a thing that represents some kind of magical or spiritual power.
Sure. Which is why we have statues.
Yeah, I've been in cabs before where they had Shivas, or they had Krishnas, or they had Madonnas, or they had Christophers, or they had, you can just go down the line, all these things. And every time I'm in a car, I'll ask, oh, what is that? And they say, oh, it's for good luck. Whether it's a Christian symbol or a pagan symbol, it's good luck. I just was in Togo and Benin. That's the capital. Those two countries are the capital of voodoo.
Literally a couple of days ago.
And and I just got back yesterday. And every village we would go into and have idols, and they had these fetishes that represent demonic power. And they believed that those things that they owned were the lucky thing, or the evil thing, or the powerful thing. That the power resided in that a demon would come in and project power. So whether you're praying to a statue in a church, or you're praying to an idol on your dashboard, or you're using some fetish to generate demonic power, people naturally gravitate towards things. And this guy went to the person. Just understand how much more powerful the person of Jesus is. I don't need a thing to provide. I don't need some kind of special oil. I don't need some kind of prayer hanky. I don't need some little idol on my dashboard. What I need is Jesus. And this guy recognized that beyond anybody else in Israel at the time. And that's why Jesus said, nobody has greater faith than this dude.
Yeah. And by the way, that translates for us in a lot of ways. I'm sure that you've had people come up and say, hey, I bought a necklace for my loved one. Would you bless it?
Right.
And really, all of their intentions are really well placed.
Right. Would you put more good luck into it?
Yes.
Or would you bring God's power into this thing?
Or just God's blessings with it, or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
Because it's going to be around their neck, or whatever it is, a ring or necklace or something, or something to keep in their pocket or in their Bible, whatever it is.
Right.
And we want God's blessings to be with our loved one. So the intentions are radically good.
That's right.
However, we and by the way, we grew up with that too.
Sure.
So the religion that I grew up in, that system did bless things. Right. And what I'm saying is that when Jesus came along, that went away.
Yes.
So
and the idea, so this comes from misunderstanding the priesthood of the believer.
Yeah.
Thinking that we need a priest to put God's power in a thing that then protects us, as opposed to having an understanding we have God's power in us. I don't need a thing to protect me now. I do have God's power in me. And I believe that's what the centurion recognized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know that we're at our time, so I'll just say this.
Great.
When people come up and they ask me to bless a thing, I honor the request by saying, sort of explaining what I just said in so many words, but then I'll say, I'd be happy to pray over this thing. And then what I do is I say, may it be a reminder of God's promises.
That's right.
May it always, remind this person, or whatever it is, just because, again, the power doesn't lie in the thing.
Right. We point them to Jesus, not to the things.
That's right.
Yep.
Well, that is a fantastic little snippet that came out of that, right?
That was good.
So we'll see you next time on The Bible Guys.